My name is Nancy Turner, and as part of the Middletown Digital History Project, I will be interviewing members of St. Francis Parish in Muncie, Indiana. Today's interviewee is Ryan Short, a member of St. Francis Parish, and the interview is taking place in my home in Muncie. First of all, Ryan, thank you for being willing to take part in this project.
Ma'am.
And if you were not born in Muncie, were you born in Muncie?
I was not. I was born in Detroit, Michigan.
Okay. So, would you give me a little bit of information about your background, and then we'll go from there.
Well, I am 18 years old, senior in high school at Yorktown High School, just southwest of Muncie. I was born in Detroit, Michigan, moved here with my family when I was 3.5, almost 4 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the oldest of 5 children, raised Roman Catholic through and through. I guess that's all there is.
Could you tell me, if you came here as a child, what were your impressions of the community? Of course, you were very young then, but do you have any impressions of Muncie that you can remember that kind of was different than where you grew up?
Well, the biggest thing, being 4 years old, is that you come from a tiny little 900 square foot apartment complex to, mm-hmm. we got a couple thousand square foot house with 1.5 acres, so I was happy to be able to run around in the sunshine and not have to worry about, keeping in mother's sight. So It was nice to be able to run. I like the small town life in Muncie, and
So you like the small town life, the small town community?
I like the small town life, small community. I go into the parishes, and everybody knows everybody after the mass is over, mm-hmm. so you're free to just hang around and talk and catch up with family and friends. So.
You say you were always a Catholic, cradle Catholic.
Cradle Catholic.
So you've been in the parish now how many years?
St. Francis Parish?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think it was 94 or 95 when mm-hmm. we began. We initially came to St. Lawrence, and that was just too far of a drive with 3-4 little kids at the time. And then we went to St. Mary's, and it's a Catholic mass, but it just wasn't really for us, and so we found St. Francis and really enjoyed that. So we've been there ever since.
And that answers my next question. Why? Why you made the choice? What part does belonging to the parish play in your life?
Well, I think a lot of people, Catholics in particular, just go to church once, twice a week, whatever it may be, just to check it off their list. But I found in the Sundays where I have missed that it doesn't feel right, and it's not because I feel obligated, it's because I feel like something's missing if I'm not there. So I like the fact that you can go and rejuvenate and become regrounded and figure out, all right, if I'm straying away a little bit, here's what God wants me to do, and it provides you with outlets to volunteer. I'm in the music ministry. I've been a member of the youth groups in the past. I've done service projects and helped with the Haiti mission trip, counting pills and such to get the medical people ready to go. So it's just nice to have a Catholic Christian community where people can hold you accountable, where people can come together and figure out what God has in store for us, what He wants for us.
So you like the sense of community, especially at Mass, but even all the time?
Yes, exactly.
So you take part in the music ministry. Just what part do you play?
I am the drummer there. I have been drumming since I was in 4th grade in the fall of 1998. And I love it.
I remember when you first came to Muncie, and there was this little kid over there on the drums.
Yeah, that was
you.
That was me. I remember the first Mass I played, actually. I'm almost 10 years old, so I didn't reach the 5-foot mark till I was almost 13, and so I'm just this tiny little kid. Nobody can see me behind the drums, and after Mass, some lady came up and handed me a $10 bill, and she said, I just love your music, and you just glorify the Lord, and you take this, and don't spend it all in one place. And I just kind of sat there dumbfounded and just looked up at her and smiled.
Do you plan to do anything else with your music?
I like to keep it as a hobby. I don't know that I'm going to, make a career out of it, but getting together with friends and play. I play guitar as well, so when you get a couple guys with guitars together, just to it's just nice to kind of unwind and just jam. As teenagers, we like to kind of let our hair down and have a little fun. So but
But you don't want it as a lifetime.
No, I don't think that's for me.
What do you plan to do with your life?
Well, I'm going to IU Bloomington next year to study business.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Not the medical field like your dad?
No, that's a lot of school.
Yeah.
That's not me.
Yeah.
But I'll be in sales and marketing. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I've got the personality where if I want you to buy something, I can make you buy it. So.
Any memories of pastors or assistants that you've been exposed to as you've come to Muncie?
I remember Father Mike McKinney.
Yes.
I was heartbroken when they announced that he was going to be leaving. He was just so, you know, St. Francis being a college parish. He was a much younger priest than than I was used to having, and he was just so good connecting to everybody, and you could relate to every single one of his homilies were about growing up with his family, and he just always found some way to tie humor into his masses and to keep people interested. But there was always
a lesson.
There was always a lesson, always a point.
Yeah.
But he made it enjoyable. He wasn't beating you over the head, and it was always, wow, this is really good. And then all of a sudden you kind of walking out and you go, oh, wait a second, I can kind of relate to that because I kind of screwed up here with my little sister too, But he was fantastic. I remember one homily in particular, speaking of music, he played guitar a little bit, and it was, I believe, Jamie Johnson, the music director now, it was his third or fourth weekend back, actually, when he returned to St. Francis from a couple-year absence. And Father Mike, there was a popular rock and roll song out at the time by Lenny Kravitz called Fly Away. And Father Mike had his guitar, and he would speak for a little bit about just wanting to escape the responsibilities and the pressures of the Catholic Christian lifestyle. And he would sing the chorus of the song, and Jamie and I would be back there with our guitars and drums backing him up. And then it'd get real quiet again, and we'd play the music in the background, and he'd speak a little bit more. And then he'd go back into the chorus and sing, and it was just, everybody loved it. Everybody remembers that Mass. That was a good Sunday.
Yeah. Any idea that you might follow in Father Mike's footsteps as a priest?
I never gave that serious consideration. I think a lot of boys, cradle Catholic boys, toss the idea around, a little bit, but I would much rather be a father to a large Catholic family, so I can, I like the idea of getting married and settling down and raising 4 or 5 kids. So.
And that's a good one. That's a good thing.
So.
Would you tell me a little bit more about the music ministry? How often do you practice with the group, or?
The music ministry typically practices every Wednesday night, I believe at around 7:30. They practice for an hour and a half together. I have not actually been able to make it to those meetings for quite some time. You get older and more commitments start to pop up. I'm not saying that tennis practice is more important than the church, obviously. I'm there on Sundays, but plus after playing there for upwards, 8 years now, I pretty much know all the songs there are to know. I've got it all on lockdown, so I show up about half an hour before Mass, 20 minutes before Mass on Sundays, and work out a few small details here and there, and then play through. And it's, once or twice a year, if not more, then it's real nice. We get together in the springtime. We'll have a pool party at somebody's home. They just do different things to keep it a nice little group. So it's good. I like it a lot.
And it shows.
Yeah, it's definitely that music ministry is very unique to Catholic churches, essentially everywhere. It's not often you walk in and you hear guitars and basses and drums, but it's great. You've got in the same Sunday you can have the flute and the trumpet and the piano, and everybody. It's a really unique. It's a very good sound though. Everybody enjoys it.
Good. If you had a choice, and you say you want to be a father of a large Catholic family.
That's right.
If you had a choice of schools for your children, Catholic or public schools, where would you send your children and why?
It depends upon the size of the school. When we came to Muncie, I was not of school age yet. And, excuse me. Both my mother and my father went to parochial schools my father up through 8th grade until he moved to Yorktown as a child. He went to Yorktown High School.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom went through, all the way through and graduated from Bishop Chittard in Indianapolis.
Mm-hmm.
So they were planning on putting us into St. Mary's school system. But they decided that without there being a Catholic high school in Muncie, it would just, it may not be the easiest adjustment to yank a kid out, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, and just to thrust them into the public school lifestyle. So we stayed public. And I believe that I would make the same decision unless there's a Catholic school available.
Oh, going all the way through
Going
high
all
school.
the way through
Yeah.
Catholic high school as well. In Yorktown, basically Yorktown is a Catholic school. I mean, you don't have multiple elementary schools feeding into middle schools and multiple middle schools feeding into one high school. You're with the same kids from kindergarten until senior year.
Uh-huh.
So it's still essentially the small town,
one
small
school.
right? Everybody knows everybody. It's the good feel, and you went to FEP on Sunday, so or your CCD, your youth group, so you get your Catholic education. But it also depends on the size of the school. At St. Mary's, I know I have a good friend that did go to St. Mary's through 8th grade. In his 8th grade year, there were 4 boys and 12 girls. That's just a bit too small for me. That's just kind of a turnoff. I'm very much a people person. I like to be around people. I like to have a lot of things going on, and when there are 16 of you, not a whole lot of actions are around.
And as you mentioned, going into a different school and middle school, those are rough years.
Exactly.
Anyway.
That's a rough transition period.
Yeah.
So it really is. So, if there was a fairly sizable K through 12 Catholic school,
Mm-hmm.
Depending on my income, whether or not I was able to make tuition for 4 or 5 kids, then yeah, I would like to do that. I'd like to be able to give my kids a Catholic education, but I have nothing against the public school system. Yorktown has done really well for me and all my siblings.
Mm-hmm. If at any time in your growing up years, of course you grew up at Yorktown, but did you experience any overt or even covert anti-Catholic attitudes or practices? Did anybody ever treat you different? Because
it was never. I've never been, the victim of discrimination or whatever.
Uh-huh.
It's just questions like people will come. Just a couple days ago, one of my Catholic friends was saying, somebody came up to him and said, "Now you guys worship Mary, right?" And he just looked at him and said, "No, we don't." And they go, "Well then, who do you worship?" Well, we worship Jesus. We are a Christian religion. Well, no, you're not Christian. You're a Catholic.
Yeah.
Well, we're the original Christians. It's just the Catholic Church is so misunderstood, and it's so vast, and there's so much there's just so, what's the word I'm looking for? Doctrine. It's just such a large field, I guess, to study and believe that it's always going to be slightly misunderstood, even by most Catholics themselves, because they don't take the time to educate themselves. But I actually believe that, the Catholic Church has kind of dropped the ball on this over the last at least several decades. If you're not even educating
adult Catholics.
These kids just grow up and they go through the quote-unquote Catholic schools, but there's not a lot of actually Catholic education going on. People misunderstand so many different aspects of the faith, and if you want to eradicate all these other misconceptions outside the faith, you need to start teaching, people on the inside first, so that you got to build from the inside out. You got to start from the ground and work your way up. And so yeah, there are definitely lots of misunderstandings and lots of people that just think that being a Catholic is dumb and we're going to rot in hell. And well, hey, if you think that, yeah, I'm not gonna. I'll tell you you're wrong, but I'm not going to.
You're not going to fight.
I'm not going to fight with you. If I'm not going to change your mind, then I'll stand up for my faith. And if somebody asks me questions, I'm always more than happy to discuss it. And that has been the case many times. But if somebody's just trying to if they're just a bigot, I'll just kind of smile and shake my head and say, okay, whatever, and go my separate way.
How do you feel towards people of other faiths? as a young Catholic, practicing Catholic?
Well, I've grown up with several friends that are actually Muslim, and I'm of the full belief that everybody on this earth, no matter if they are the most devout Catholic in the entire world, or if they just can't stand the thought of organized religion, whatever, I think that every single person has an equal chance of getting to heaven. I think that other than people that just flat out say, I hate the church, I hate God, I hate all this stuff, maybe they've had a bad experience or whatever, something just put a bad taste in their mouth or whatever, most people, we're all working to get to the same place. I just think that Catholics have the most direct route. So I have no feelings of resentment towards any other faith at all, except for, I went through my kind of, I don't want to be a Catholic phase. I was essentially out the door, and I went to a traditional Baptist church. Wow, talk about fire and brimstone. But what shocked me is that I have never in my life, and I've read lots of books, I've heard lots of tapes, I've never heard a Catholic priest criticize another faith. But, I've heard multiple pastors of, different Protestant faiths just attack the Catholic Church, and that's what their whole sermon's about. Well, how is that helping your congregation just by picking at another faith? That doesn't spiritually help anybody. So
you lead much more of a positive attitude of people of all faiths.
Exactly. I'm very tolerant until you start harassing anybody. And if there are Christian people I know of that start attacking my Muslim friends, I'll stand up for them. It's just, there is absolutely no need for that, and it really irritates me. So I'll be very tolerant until you decide you're not going to be. and then I'll say something.
You're a young practicing Catholic, almost into full adulthood. Since you are a member of St. Francis, what is your view of the future of your parish? It's now a community that's composed mostly of students, but also of a parish of families too. So what's your view of the future of that parish?
I'm not exactly sure where St. Francis, if they're wanting to change anything or if they're wanting to integrate anything new or what's going to happen. I've been told by multiple people that Father John, our current pastor, is going to retire within the next 5 or so years. I'm not sure how much truth there is to that statement. If it is true, I would really hope that the bishop would assign a young priest that can really connect to kids, that can really draw them in and keep them here and things with them to get them excited about their faith. Because college is a time where, it's part of the age or whatever, but kids just fall off the religious bandwagon. They go for 18 years because their parents make them, and then they'll stop for 6 or 7 just because, do I have to? It's kind of a drag. I've got better things to do for an hour. And then they'll have their own kids and they'll go back. But I think that you need somebody that can keep the kids for those 6, 7 years and, the 4 years of school that they're there and say, hey, look, this isn't optional. We want you here. You should be here, and this is why. And somebody that can really reach them. So, I would hope for that. I would, the parish, in the past couple of years, we've completed and are still in the progress of completing a lot of construction projects, and that's always going to draw people in. Oh, look what's going on over there. Let's go check that out. And you can draw people in at any given time, and great. I would like to see them get a bit more involved in the community. They do have multiple, like I mentioned earlier, service projects available to publicize it. Get some radio slots, get some low budget cable TV slots or whatever, and just say, hey, we're going to go build a house for Habitat for Humanity. Come on out, free pizza. Let's do it. Just building fellowship like that, and it's a no pressure thing. That's not telling people we're going to have mass and we're going to beat you over the head with the Bible. That's saying, just come on out, let's hang out. Let's swing a hammer and hit some nails, and building relationships is how you're going to draw people in. and it's also how you're going to keep people to stay and to make them more thirsty for faith. So I think that's the direction that not just St. Francis, but every parish, should really be focused on.
Even the food banks. If you don't have a event for building houses, there are all the food banks.
Exactly. Yeah, that's just one example.
But it's a community effort.
There are dozens of opportunities that you can get so many different. I know that Catholic churches are always. I'm sure every church, regardless of denomination, is always strapped for money. But take a week of the offering and say, we're going to get as many people as we can together. We're going to go to a food kitchen, and then we're going to go to a soup kitchen, work 3 or 4 hours, and then we'll go out to a movie, and it'll be in the church. Just stuff like that. I'm not sure how practical that is, or what the priest or bishop or what the higher ups have to say about that. But those are just from the outside looking in. These are ideas, and they can always be tweaked and changed, and but you got to start somewhere. No idea is perfect, so take that and run with it and fix it or whatever. But just stuff. New thinking is always
young thinking. Too many. I know not my generation necessarily, which we are now, the older generation, but on beyond me, so many had a kind of a bunker mentality of staying away from other religions and only doing Catholic things. And so it's good to hear as a young person that this is the way you feel. Is there anything else that you wish I had asked you about your faith, about the church, about going to church?
I think we pretty well covered the bases.
Okay. Well, Brian, thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time to do this interview.
Thank you.